The bruise was still fresh when the sun climbed the curtains. Purple, yellow, and blue lived together on her cheek, like a storm that refused to leave. He noticed it when she turned her face slightly away, but he said nothing. He never did in the mornings. Silence had always been his shield, and fear had always done the rest. She stood at the stove, steady hands, cracking eggs, the smell of warm bread filling the small kitchen. Outside, the world moved like nothing was wrong. Cars passed. Birds argued on wires. Somewhere a neighbor laughed. Inside, time felt heavy, like it was holding its breath. He sat at the table, scrolling on his phone, pretending the night before was already buried. He believed mornings erased sins. He believed food fixed things. He believed she would always stay. He was wrong. She had learned long ago that pain does not shout forever. Sometimes it waits. Sometimes it cooks. Her name was Elara. She had once stood in places where fear had a face and danger had a sound. Long before this kitchen, before this man, she had worn a uniform that smelled of dust and metal and sweat. She had been a field nurse in places where mornings came with smoke instead of sunlight. She had learned how to stop bleeding with calm hands and how to hold life while it slipped away. She had learned how silence could be stronger than screams, but none of that showed on the surface now. To the world, she was just a quiet wife with a bruise she tried to hide. She placed the plate in front of him. Eggs cooked just the way he liked. Toast cut into perfect squares. Coffee poured to the same line on the mug he always used. Everything familiar. Everything safe. He smiled, the easy smile of a man who thought control was love. He thanked her without looking up. She sat across from him, folding her hands, feeling the old scar on her wrist where shrapnel once kissed skin. That scar had a story. This bruise had one too. Only one of them was invisible to everyone else. Years ago, Elara had believed in promises. She had believed in the way he spoke softly when they first met, the way he said he admired her strength. He told her she was different. He told her she made him feel calm. Back then, his hands were gentle. His words were warm. Back then, she thought she was finally home. The change did not come all at once. It never does. It arrived in small pieces. A look that lingered too long. A question asked twice. A door closed a little harder than needed. He never hit her at first. He used silence like a rope, tightening it slowly. He made her doubt herself. He made her apologize for things she did not break. When the first strike came, it was followed by tears and regret. He said stress had pushed him. He said he needed her. He said it would never happen again. She wanted to believe him. She had seen worse things in the world. She told herself this was smaller, manageable, fixable, that lie lasted longer than the bruise. Each time, she told herself she was strong enough to handle it. Each time, she felt a little less real. She stopped calling old friends. She stopped wearing bright colors. She learned how to turn her face at the right moment so marks would hide. She learned how to smile in public and shrink in private. But strength does not disappear. It waits. The night before had been different. Not louder. Not more violent. Just clearer. He had pushed her, and she had hit the wall. And for the first time, she did not feel fear. She felt certainty. The kind that settles deep and does not move, as she lay on the floor. Tasting blood, she remembered a soldier she once held as he faded. He had looked at her and said something she never forgot. Pain ends. What matters is what you do before it does. That sentence came back to her as she washed her face. As she covered the bruise, as she slept for a few hours with one eye open. Now. Across the table, she watched him eat. He chewed slowly, savoring the comfort. He did not see the envelope under his plate at first. He did not see the calm in her eyes. He did not hear the quiet shift in the air. She had prepared this breakfast with care. Not as a gift, but as a goodbye. Inside the envelope were papers that carried more weight than any argument. Orders of protection. A statement written in her own steady handwriting. Copies of medical records she had quietly kept. Photos saved and backed up in places he could never reach. Names of witnesses who had seen enough to speak now. a ring placed gently on top, clean and final. He noticed the edge of the paper when he reached for his coffee. Confusion crossed his face, followed by annoyance. He pulled the envelope out, flipped it open, and the room changed. His fork froze halfway to his mouth. For the first time in years, silence belonged to her. He looked up at Elara, searching for the old version of her. The one who flinched, the one who explained, the one who begged him to be kind. He did not find her. What he saw instead was a woman who had already left in her mind. She did not raise her voice. She did not insult him. She did not threaten. She let the truth sit between them like a mirror. This was the moment where men like him usually spoke, where they argued or denied or promised change. He opened his mouth, but nothing useful came out. Power had slipped away quietly like a tide pulling back. He stood up too fast, the chair scraping the floor. The sound felt small. She remained seated. There was a knock at the door. He turned, startled. He had not expected anyone. She had. Outside stood a woman in plain clothes, with calm eyes, and behind her, another figure, patient and still. Not forceful, not loud, just present. Elara rose then, smoothing her shirt, touching her bruise without shame. She walked past him, opened the door, and spoke with the same steady tone she once used in emergency tents and broken buildings. The kitchen, once his kingdom, no longer belonged to him. What followed was not chaos. It was order. Neighbors would later say they never heard shouting. They only saw him leave with his shoulders slumped, his confidence gone. They saw Elara stand in the doorway, sunlight on her face, breathing freely for the first time in years. News does not travel fast about quiet courage, but it lasts longer. In the days that followed, Elara returned to herself piece by piece. She moved into a small place with wide windows. She hung her uniform in the closet again, not because she had to wear it, but because she remembered who she was when she did. She reconnected with people who had waited patiently for her voice to return. The bruise faded. The lesson did not. He tried to reach out once, a message filled with regret and confusion. She did not respond. Silence, when chosen, can be a wall no one crosses. At a support center not far away, Elara began volunteering her time. She listened more than she spoke. She poured coffee for shaking hands. She sat beside women who thought they were alone and showed them, without force, that they were not. Sometimes she shared her story. Not all of it. Just enough, she would say, that strength does not always look like fighting back. Sometimes it looks like planning. Sometimes it looks like patience. Sometimes it looks like making breakfast while your future waits quietly under a plate. One afternoon, a young woman asked her how she found the courage to leave. Elara thought for a moment, then answered with a soft truth. Courage did not arrive all at once. It grew every time she chose herself in small ways, until one morning, she realized she had already won. The world likes loud endings, big speeches, public apologies. But real justice often comes quietly. It comes when someone who was taught to shrink stands still and lets truth do the work. Some mornings, Elara still wakes before the sun. Old habits linger. But now, when light fills her room, it feels like an invitation instead of a warning. She makes breakfast for herself. She eats slowly. She breathes deeply. She remembers the woman she was, the woman she is, and the woman she is still becoming. And somewhere far from her table, a man learns too late that control cannot survive dignity. In silence, when chosen by the right person, can change everything. If this story moved you, take a moment to share where you are watching from. Your voice matters. Your presence matters. And if you believe in stories that honor quiet strength and unseen battles, stay with us. And subscribe for more stories that remind us who we are when no one is looking. ChatGPT can make mistakes,